Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we are going to dive into the index tier ranking for the Tyranids. Now, I know the codex is probably 3 weeks away or so, but I wanted to make sure I did an index tier ranking before the codex so we kind of see where stuff was in the index and where it ends up in the codex. Obviously, there'll be point changes throughout the life of the codex, and we will have one right away when it comes out. Still, I like to do these so we can kind of see how the Tyranids evolved through the edition. So that's going to be this one. I've pretty much played at least one game with almost all of the units in this, in the index now. There's a few that I don't own, like the Sporocyst and the Herodin. So I think I have a decent understanding. Before I dive in, just want to say thank you, members, again for supporting us. I know my videos have been only one a week lately. I've been wanting to do more. The little puppy we have has been a bit of a problem lately, going through her teenage years. So sleep has been a higher priority for me. So I've been working on that. Hopefully by the time the Tyranid Codex goes around, I've already got schedules for a ton of videos we're going to pump out. We'll get back into our Tyranid Tactica deep dives and many more videos like that. So thank you guys. Like and subscribe. All that good stuff. Now let's dive into the index tier ranking. So I did a poll a while ago and I asked if people wanted this to be a live stream video or a pre-recorded, and the vast majority of you guys wanted it to be a pre-recorded video. I take that as you want it to be quick and to the point, so I will try to have it broken up in chapters down below based on the tier. I'm not going to do every single unit, but you'll go based on tier. And hopefully it's under an hour. It'll probably still be a decent long one because I want to say a little something about most units, but I'll try and breeze through it just so you get the overarching ideas on all of them. Say the in-depth discussion for the codex when that comes out. So we know the codex is coming soon. My tiers we have here are the index carrying units, great choices, average units. You know, they'll do their part. Probably not the best, not the worst, but they'll do their part. We've got the flawed choices. They're just something about the unit, whether it's the point cost or a stat, something that just holds it back. There's something better you could take in its place. And then we have the final tier of the winged prime and just units that are really bad in the index. So let's get into tier 5, the winged prime tier. So these handful of units I think are abysmal. First off, like I said, the winged prime, it sucks. The winged prime really sucks. Now maybe when the index shows up it'll be cheaper. Maybe melee warriors, which is really what this thing thrives with, are melee warriors. Maybe those get a little cheaper. Maybe there's an attachment that benefits them, but they marketed this thing as going to be this super powerful Terminator Slayer beast. So it looks so good in the trailer that some people thought it was a new tyrant. That is not the case, and you would be hard pressed to find this thing killing one Terminator before it gets absolutely smashed by the rest of them in an actual game. So for that reason, we're keeping it in the bottom tier because it's bad. Similarly, the Hive Guard are also bad. So the Hive Guard shot cannons are an okay weapon. Yes, they have anti-vehicle 4+, but really they're lacking AP to really do their damage. Sure, you could get a bunch of wounds through, but most vehicles with cover are going to be getting a 3-up save against these things. They're just not, for their points, they're not chipping away at vehicles very efficiently. The Impaler cannons just aren't that good either. They're probably one of the worst indirect fire weapons in all of 40k. Short range, low AP, okay damage. They're not that great. So Hive Guard going down there as well. We then have the Tyrannocyte. Tyrannocyte I originally had higher, and then I realized that there has been a rule change from 9th to 10th edition. I did not realize it affected the Tyrannocytes until I thought about it some more. And maybe I'm wrong. Put me in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong, but technically the way the rule works, if a transport moves and then the stuff gets out, it can't charge. When a Tyrannocyte comes in from reserve, it technically counts as moving. So if you deep strike a pot in, anything that pops out of there is not allowed to make a charge, which really cuts in half the number of units that you could take effectively. Now, I guess you don't want to bank on a 9-inch charge, but still, you can't even do that now with the way the transport rule works. So for that reason, and the fact that its wound cap is, there's not a lot of monsters you can put in there to be useful. You can't, it's just, there's not much that goes in there, and it's kind of expensive. Sure, turn 1's nice, but yeah, the fact that you can't put melee units in there, I'm drop, and strategic reserve is free, I'm dropping into this tier, unfortunately. The Harpy, a grossly overcosted model. If you saw my last video, I think it needs about 75 points shaved off of it, and then it would be a fun choice. Not an overpowered choice, but a fun choice. It would go up into the average units tier, I think. But with 230 points at its cost, it is just way too expensive to be worth taking. And flyer rules are kind of right now. The Sporocyst, next. Not liking the Sporocyst. Again, this is one of the units I haven't played with, but with the way fortifications work, sure, they're a little bit better than 9th edition, but this thing just doesn't produce like it used to. It doesn't shoot like it used to. Its point cost is meh. Its durability is meh. In a narrative game, it could be fun to have one of these in there, but I just competitively, or any ounce of competitiveness, it's not great. And then for the final 3 units, the Mucilid, the Spore Mines, and the Rippers. One note here is that these units, if you buy them as part of your army roster, I think don't bother. You could argue maybe the Rippers are okay. They could do some secondaries. I think these units are great if they are spawned from their various units. So I think a Mucilid, if you could spawn one in, is decent, even though the Sporocyst isn't great. I think spawning Spore Mines right now, the rules are the way they are. Biovores make these things insane, but I would not pay for the Spore Mines. You would spawn them. Same with the Rippers. If you can spawn a Ripper through the Parasite, I think that free Ripper base can do a lot for you, potentially in the secondary game. I just wouldn't pay for them. Maybe the Rippers belong in the higher tier, but I threw them down here just because I don't think these little units are worth bringing for the most part. Maybe the Ripper should have been in a higher tier. Let me know. So that is the bottom tier, Wing Prime tier. So then we go into Flawed Choices. Now again, these Flawed Choices, there's something holding them back, whether it's a point cost, a rule, durability, or something that just, there's something better you should take. First off, we have the Screamer Killer. I think, if again, you've seen my video, it's pretty obvious. These things just need a points cut. That's it. There's no reason you should be bringing a Screamer Killer over a Trigon in games of 40k this day. It's just, even regular Carnifexes, I would bring the regular ones over this. They're just, Screamer, he's good, but he's just too expensive. The Flyrant suffers from its model, because if they can see those massive wings, it can be shot. It's decently durable. It actually gained durability in a way. It got an extra, to gain technically more toughness and a better armor save. It lost its movement and a few wounds, so it balances out. But he's got a great ability. He can do decent in melee. Not good in shooting, but he's too big. He's too big and easy to pop if you bring him. So he's just inferior to the Foot Tyrant. Tervigon, point cost. That's the main thing here. Tervigon, I love her. She's great in melee. Not as good as she used to be, but she's great in melee. She does great buffs to Gaunts if you want to bring a huge swarm. She's just too many dang points. 200 points is too many. And really, it should be 165 or something like that. Now, I have Warriors on here twice because we have ranged and melee. This is the melee choice because they're more expensive. They're just, yeah, you could argue they're better damage output than the ranged ones. But I think for a unit of 3, the ranged ones fill a better role. These guys, you want these to be your damage dealers or a damage dealer unit, and they're just too expensive for what you get out of them. If they were cheaper, yes. And again, we have the The Psychophage is an awesome model. I love this thing. I like its ability. I like the thought of how it works. But its attack profile at D6 plus 1 is just horrible. Whoever thought that that was a good idea is, I don't know. I don't know what they're smoking. But 2d3, 3d3, d3 plus 3 attacks, a flat 6. I understand you want some of the randomness because of all the tentacles and things, but come on, d6 plus 1. Most of the time this thing's getting like 3 attacks, and 3 attacks don't do much, so it needs a point cut and maybe a stat profile on the attacks changed. The Toxicrin, actually not a bad unit. If you know you're going up against infantry, this thing does really well at chewing through infantry. It runs into 2 issues. One of them, it's a little expensive at 200 points. I think it should be probably down where the Screamer is at 180-ish. But the other thing, it really holds us back, and it's been holding this model back ever since 8th edition, when line of sight rules changed and stuff. Those tentacles, you can't hide. Yes, you can use them, manipulate them to get cover at all times, but at the same time, you can't hide it. Maybe it's not the worst because of the way cover works. It can be seen as having a little bit extra durability. But I think I would like it if it's cheaper, just because you put it on table and anything can see it. Yes, you'll get cover almost all the time, but anything can see it. So that's just the nature of the Toxicrin. Unfortunately, its tentacles are cool. I just wish they modeled them. They were closer to the body so it worked on the base footprint, more or less. This odd picture is the Hive Crone. Now, I had the Hive Crone a lot higher on my thoughts earlier, but I thought the Hive Crone was only 155 points. I'm not sure where I got that number from, if they changed the price of the Hive Crone without me realizing it, or was that its 9th edition cost? I don't know where that came from in my brain. I thought the Hive Crone was a lot cheaper, and I thought it was a good pick at that, but now seeing that it's actually at 200 points, thank you to someone who pointed that out in the comments of my last video. It's a lot better than the Harpy, but it's still at 200 points. I'd rather take a Tyrannid every day of the week. So, unfortunate with the Hive Crone, but it is what it is. And then we have our 2 Titans. The Hierophant, where is he? There he is. I do love me a good Hierophant. He's got some great damage output, he's benefits from that towering keyword, which is a bit wonky right now. The big thing holding him back is because his durability is so. If an army brings anti-tank, it's all of your eggs in one basket, and he can't shrug off that damage like, well, he never really could, but he can't really shrug that damage off that much. Yes, you can pay a CP to give him Feel No Pain. He's got a 5-up invuln, he's got a 2-up save, he's got 30 wounds or something, but Eldar would wipe him out in 1 turn, and that is a good chunk of your army gone. Similar to the Harridan, same thing, but it has to suffer from the flyer rules, so it could come in turn 2, or it could hover and stay on turn 1. It's okay. I think I like it a little bit less than the Hierophant, but again, I haven't played the Harridan. This is the one of the 2 models I don't own. Maybe someday, but not at this moment. Going into tier 3, we have our average units. So these average units are units that they're good. They're good. You're not going to see them spammed throughout army list often, but put in the list and used in the right way, they're going to make it and they're going to do well. They're just not going to be like, oh, this thing carried me type of army or type of unit. So first off, I have the Von Ryan Leapers. You could argue, I have these at the top of this list. You could put them at the bottom of the higher tier. I put them here for the main reason is that they compete with a lot of units to do the same role. So right now, they're not really great at damage dealing. I've tried them as being damage dealers. It doesn't work all that well. They're much better at getting your early objectives with that infiltrate keyword, fighting for those flank objectives, and things like that. The problem is you have gargoyles, gene stealers, and lictors and the Death Leaper who can also do that role similarly. Specifically, the Lictor and the Death Leapers, I think are a little bit better, smaller footprint. They have the lone operative keyword, same roughly point cost. They can sit on objective. Yes, their OC is a little bit less, but do you really care when you're dealing with a difference of 1 to 3? Not really. Yeah, I like them. I just think... Oh, and did I say gargoyles? Yeah, gargoyles, yes, they don't infiltrate, but they got the deep strike, and they can move up the board. Raveners can deep strike. They're fast. They can reoccurring deep strike. Again, I like the lictor, the leapers. I have 12 of them, but I think we have to wait for the infiltration detachment before these guys really start to be awesome, which hopefully we see. We have a pyrovore. I like the pyrovore. I think at what, it's 30 or 40 points, it's a excellent pick. You can use it to play with shooting armies and turn off cover. It's got a decent little flamer itself. It's a great thing to strategic reserve and work on secondaries for. And honestly, if you've got the 30 points laying around, it's not a bad option at all. I've often put one into my competitive list, and it's a nice little tool. And it's going to get an awesome model soon. Then we have one that hurts to put down here. It hurts to put the Swarm Lord down here, but I just don't... I don't feel he's worth it. He's more expensive than a Foot Tyrant. He doesn't give you as much CP. Yes, he's got that cool hindrance ability, and he's better in melee and shooting than the Foot Tyrant. I don't think I like him. One thing that would change his ranking from average to a good choice is I have not found, and maybe someone can clarify for me, but we have not found an official conclusion from GW anywhere that you gain an extra CP, that you can get that in addition to discarding a secondary and gaining a CP. The reason that's important because his whole thing, oh yes, get a CP extra every time. But if you discard secondaries to gain CP, then you're not getting the CP bonus twice. You're only getting it once. Maybe if you're playing with Biovores and you are just picking your 2 fixed secondaries, yes, the Swarm Lord would be great because he will always give you that extra CP, and the Biovores, you don't need to play with extra secondaries. So in that combination, I would put the Swarm Lord up a tier. If you are not playing with the Bioforce strat, which personally I like to play with, I think it's plenty viable without him, I would pop him down here. That's my thought. Maybe he's a little harsh on Swarm Lord. I love him so much, but that's just kind of where he sits for me. Another unit is the Moloch. I do really like the Moloch. I think it's great at its point cost. It can dish out a ton of attacks at AP -2, which is hard to find these days to have a ton of damage 1, AP -2 attacks. Obviously, the higher damage, the better, but its sheer volume just allows it to chew through that chaff infantry. You deep strike into battlefield, it does a decent amount of mortal wounds, and then it's really going after that chaff stuff, and it is great at clearing that. You've got the big jaw that often does a good 3 mortal wounds, so it can still hurt some tankier things. But I like Moloch. I can't complain. It's not a must-have unit, I think. I think you can make them work. It's not a must-have, but it's perfectly average. I like it. The Broodlord I'm putting here. I like him. He's good. He lost Synapse, so that's unfortunate. You have to pay to give him Synapse now. I could see people putting him up a tier, but again, when you see the rest of the tier in the final picture, I'm trying to make it a nice balance, or a bell curve. So you've got a lot of units in the average, and then some in here, and then a few are down here. So put him there. I think he's good. Yes, you pair him with the Gene Stealers, and maybe that combo is elevated higher, giving out all those mortal wounds. He's got Twin Linked, which is great, which I forgot about in the battle report that I used him with. But using him again, he's good. He's just a lot of points for the combo. We then have the Barbed Hero Duel. Again, in that same battle report, I probably didn't play the Barbed Hero Duel as well as I should have. I think it's got a great ability in the whole suppression, -1 to hit something you target is great. Its guns are very powerful in today's age against a lot of infantry, and it still hits really hard in melee. It hits harder in melee now than it did in 9th edition, I think, relatively speaking, and it's a lot of points, but I think out of them, it's it's still a great option. And it's good, great durability. Gene Stealers, on their own, without the Broodlord, they're fine. You get something on the objective and they will hurt it a lot. But being only strength 4 when everything else has shifted up strength, it really starts to show when they go up against Terminators and they're T5, or even like the Custodian ones, or they're 6 or 7, or the Death Guard ones. It starts to show that these things are not killing Terminators anymore, and that they're really, again, just killing the chaff infantry, which everything can do these days. So they're okay. On their own, they're fine. I really wouldn't bring Gene Stealers without a Broodlord accompanying them, just because that's kind of the way it feels like it needs to be. Then we have the Neurogons. I like these little guys. You could 90 points for 22 simple one wound bodies is not bad. Yes, they can, if they're in synapse range, they can spread out your synapse range. I don't like taking them attached to the Neurotyrant. I like them being near Neurotyrant is fine. But if you're bringing a full swarm, bringing 270 points for 66 of these guys, it's a lot of bodies your opponent's going to have to chew through. And I think it's a decent option for sure. So again, perfectly average. The Parasite, I'm sticking her here, average. It doesn't do anything fantastic except for not getting shot because it's got the lone operative keyword. It can kill some chaff, it can spawn some rippers, those rippers can help you with secondaries, so there's potential. It doesn't have synapse, so again, you have to pay for the synapse if you want it, which I think is really the way the Parasite should have been to begin with. But we got that sweet taste of the Synapse Parasite 9th edition. So yeah, it's fine. You can make it work, absolutely. It can go sit on objectives, it can fly into the corners and do actions. It's a good unit, and you'll probably see it pop up in tournament lists here or there. And that's not a knock on the list. I think if you use it right, it's good. It's just not something that everybody needs. Then we have the Scythe Hero Duel, my favorite of the Forge World models. It's got potential again. It's got a ton of attacks. The Flamer is amazing, especially with the way Overwatch works this edition. The Flamer is amazing. It can really crack a tank. It's one of our only units in melee that can reliably run up to a tank and smash it. The problem is, a lot of things, again, bringing anti-tank, they know that this thing is your only anti-tank melee, and it's going to get focused down. Some armies, like Eldar, are going to pop it turn 1, nothing you can do about it. Maybe turn 2. Other armies might struggle a bit, and if it's an army like Grey Knights that really don't have the anti-vehicle or anti-monster to deal with it, this thing is going to run amok in your opponent, and it's going to be great. That's a big trade-off. That's why I'm putting it at average. Some armies this thing will do well against, some armies it won't. Tyrant Guard, down here, I think if you bring them, they're fine. They've got their Feel No Pain when they're attached to a Tyrant. They're decently durable. They soak the wounds for your Tyrant, but I don't think the Tyrant needs them, so that's why I'm putting them down here. Tyrant can hide. The Tyrant is not something, whether it's Swarmlord, Flyrant, or Foot Tyrant, it's not, or even the Neuro Tyrant, it's not something where the Tyrant is running up turn 1. It needs those bodyguards to absorb the hits. Really, you should be playing your Tyrant around turn 3. It starts to come out and start dealing with some of the remaining threats. That way, not as many big guns to kill it. It's got a better chance of surviving because it's durable, but it's not that durable. So Tyrant Guard are fine. I just don't think you need them. The Ranged Warriors are good if you need a little Synapse plug in your army. Maybe something to just help branch Synapse out. Maybe fight for an edge objective. I think a unit of Ranged Warriors at 75 points is not a bad option. They're average. Again, they're going to do some damage in melee. They're going to do some damage in range. And they're going to be Synapse. For 75 points, I can't argue with them. I can't put them any higher than just an average unit. And finally, we have the Hormagaunts. I like the Hormagaunts. They're the only way we have advanced in charge in the whole army as it stands right now. But they just don't hit very hard. No way to really get rerolls on them. Low strength, a lot of attacks, but they just, maybe some things will change and we'll have a way to make them work a little bit better. they're good if you're bringing a full horde. You obviously want to use these as to your potential. I just don't think I can't really put them higher than this right now. All right, then we are on to tier 2. These are great units. You will often see these in tournament lists, not all tournament lists, but a lot of them will pick from these units. I think they all have their purpose in competitive lists. They all have their reasons they're up here. We'll go into those obviously, but if someone asks me if any of these units are good, I will say yes. You just got to make sure you use them right. So first off, at the top of this tier, we have the Maleceptor. And I didn't think the Maleceptor, when the index first came out on the Discord, the members and I were going back and forth like, this thing's probably not that good. Well, maybe it is pretty good. We went back and forth for a while right away. And after playing a ton of games with the Maleceptor, I can say it is very good. That damage 3 shooting attack while short range is still good to have, because a lot of models or a lot of codexes these days have 3 wound units that have a 2 or 3 up save that this thing is perfect at going after. It's also incredibly durable. It's toughness, 10 or 11. It's got 14 wounds. It's got a 4 up invuln save, 3 up armor. So you can still kind of benefit from cover a little bit. But for 1 CP, you can slap Feel the Pain on this, which if your opponent is focus firing it, all that more durability, it helps. They will die, but again, that instant phallic diffusion is also good if you can get them up there. I think they're good. I think they're well costed. I don't think they should need to change at all. They're not, I wouldn't call them overpowered. I wouldn't call them underpowered, but they fit a great role in the army. Next, we have the Harusvex, a unit I very much love. I'm glad to see him get his time in the sun. Probably a little undercosted in my opinion, but I won't complain. I won't complain at all with him being at 125 points. He does well. He has a ton of attacks at melee. 14 with the maw and 4 with the big smashy claws. This thing can take on a ton of different units. Yes, his durability is questionable. It's only 3 up save, toughness 11? Is he 11? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now. Toughness 11 with a 3 up save. He will die. 14 wounds. He will die to various las cannon type things, but they're so cheap. You could have 2 of them if you really wanted to. They really are just an ultimate distraction Carnifex. You rush them up at your opponent. Your opponent has to deal with them, because if they get into melee, they're going to mess some things up. But they'll die, and they'll allow the rest of your force to get into position for the mid to late games. So I do like them. Tyrannofex is great. I'm going to preface this where I think the acid spray Tyrannofex is by far superior. The rupture cannon has potential with its abilities to get its rerolls and whatnot. I just don't like that reliable gun, or that unreliable gun that it is. And then the Fleshspore Hive surprisingly it's surprisingly not bad. I don't think you need more damage 1 shooting, even if it is a serious high volume of attacks. But it's not a horrible option, and but I like the Stinger Salve, or the acid spray by far, especially paired with the Foot Tyrant. So, and he's durable. He's extremely durable. Was he toughness 12, 16 wounds, -1 damage? Yeah, this thing is a tank that just stays around all game, pretty much. Then we have the Barb Gaunts. Just finished painting 5 of these guys. They're good. They're 50 points. Honestly, I wouldn't put them any higher. Maybe if they went up to like 55 points or 60 points, it would be okay. But I really think with GW correcting it to the way it should be, is 1 target they shoot is suppressed. That makes much more sense. It tones them down a little bit. Some armies these guys do amazing into. They're great at slowing down Custodes. Necron that love their big blobs of warriors. These guys absolutely decimate those. But sometimes you run into matchups where it's just like, oh, these are going to do nothing. So they're just going to be an objective holder. And at 50 points, they're a great objective holder. Strategic reserve them for free if you want. Then they can just pop on, maybe shoot something, get you some engage points, whatever the case is. Love them. Love them. The Trigon Prime. I do like the sorry, it's just a Trigon these days. No Trigon Prime anymore. Sad times. Rest in peace, the 9 big snake list that we had at one point. So the regular Trigon, as he is now, he's good. He's got a lot of great melee potential, a little squishy, but the ability to rapid ingress him 3 inches away from an opponent really makes it so he doesn't, or he only has to survive 1 turn of shooting before he hits something in melee. And when he hits something in melee, he's got the damage potential to really deal with it. You can slam him into some more elite stuff. He probably won't survive the punchback very well. Or you can slam him into some chaff and really make sure you clean that stuff out. Going after where your opponent's got like missile launchers sitting on the backfield objective, or maybe it's just a few characters and like a tactical squad, or I guess an intercessor squad, things like that. He's great at killing. And then you can also use him for those secondaries because it is a 3-inch away. It's hard to screen him out. So yes, love the Trigon. Old One Eye, up there in my top 5 of favorite Tyranid models. He's great. He runs into the issue of when his Carnifex buddies die, he doesn't get the rerolls anymore, which severely hampers him. But along with the side hero duel, he is one of our only wrecking balls in melee that when he hits a tank, there's a very good chance he kills that tank. Just because of his strength and his attacks and his damage. It's good stuff. And then you can have him accompany the Carnifexes, and they can be shooty Carnifexes, they can be melee ones, they can be a mix. And that full rerolls is something the Tyranids just don't have a lot of. So it's great to have it when you can. So it's Old One Eye. We have the Lictor and Death Leaper, and I kind of put these next to each other. They essentially do the same roles, a little bit different point cost, but a lone op, they're great to have one pop in. Maybe they try to go assassinate a character. Don't try assassinate Necron ones, it doesn't go well. Maybe they try to do your secondaries. That's pretty much it. The lone op allows them to sit in a corner, and you really don't have to worry about them dying, unless something really wants to go get them, but you know, it is what it is. Same thing with Death Leaper. I like them. I'm very curious to see how these guys evolve into the new codex, because there's big hopes and dreams for these guys getting new models. So we'll see them going forward. I then have the Neuro Tyrant, and I think the Neuro Tyrant is a very good include in the list. Many lists. He's only 105 points. He's got a great flamer that can deal with chaff and stuff. He's got his ability to give out the synapse, so if you want to send your Haruspex up the board, he will still have synapse, and he can do his thing. But I think most importantly, you take him because Shadow in the Warp is significantly buffed when you take him. That -1 to the leadership test doesn't seem like it's a ton, but man, that really starts to tack on the Battle Shock. Yeah, Battle Shock is a little meh. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it doesn't matter. You can't control it too much. But for what he is, a Synapse creature that just kind of supports, sit in the back, and help your Shadow in the Warp, at 105 points, he's great. I wouldn't want him for really any more points, and I don't think he needs to be less. He's a great include, and I bring him in most of my lists. We have the Carnifex. Again, these guys they're cheap, they're good. It's a shame their heavy venom cannons got so nerfed, but they do damage in melee. Their crushing claws are good. I like the double Daka ones, 24 shots apiece. Pairing them with Old One Eye is pretty fun, especially if you strategic reserve them, catch some unsuspecting forces on the side flanks. They're fine. I think they hit the Carnifex as well. Yes, it really sucks to be weapon skill 4+ again, and ballistic skill 4+ again. That hurts, but Old One Eye does make up for that a little bit. I think Thermagants are fine. They're not too expensive. They can do a decent amount of damage at shooting. They have their neat little retreat ability. They sit on objectives for OC2. I think if you're not bringing a swarm list, I think including a squad of these is perfectly acceptable. If you're including a swarm list, you're going to want a lot of these probably. So can't really say anything bad about the Termagant. Then we have Venomthropes. Venomthropes are a unit that, as we played more and more of the 10th, we realized they're not nearly as crucial as we thought they were because everything seems to cover. However, I put them up here because if you are playing a swarm list and you want stealth to a large portion of your army, these guys are very important to giving that whole army stealth, and it really amps up the durability of your horde, having your entire army with stealth and cover at all times in a way, if they're in the bubble. Yeah, Thrones are good. They're not too expensive. I don't recommend them in a monster mash based list, but a swarm list, highly recommend at least a unit of one, if not two. And now we get into the carry me type of units. So these are 6 units. I wanted to make this only like 3 or 4, but I'm putting 6 units up here that really help carry the Tyranids to being a powerful codex, because we really are a powerful codex. I think it's shaken up. Yes, some of these units help, specifically one at the top of the list, but we do well. So let's talk about them. So first off, the Biovore. You guys know me. I don't like the Biovore. I don't like that he can score. Well, I like the Biovore. I don't like that the Spore Mines can score. I think it's cheesy. I think it's a crutch that people can rely on more than they should. But that's the way the rules work, and I can't argue with that, really. So if you play that way, more power to you. Win your games with those. If you play without them, great. That's what I like to do as well. We'll see what happens when the Codex rolls around. Will they make a change to this? Who knows? Maybe not in the Codex they'll change it, but they'll change it in... I think they have a balanced data slate technically coming in 3 weeks, about the same time the Codex comes out. So maybe they change this here as well. Not sure as for that. But you can't argue with Biovores, really. Then we have Zoanthropes, 30 points apiece. Take 90 points for 3 of them. They're a great unit. Their lances can be powerful. I often actually find myself with those the blast shots to be doing... I do this because that was an old blast template, what it used to be in 5th edition. They do great. Decent, good AP 2, strength 7, damage D3 is a nice sweet spot to really chunk out infantry of all calibers. So I like them. They're cheap. I like to bring at least 2 units of 3. If I can bump up the points to a unit of 6, that's great. Then they become a real weapon and a tough block to deal with, because you can give them Feel of Pain for 1 CP. You can, if you have Venomthropes in the list, they can get the -1 hit because they're infantry. I really like the Zoanthropes. Though, I am going back on my word saying that they were criminally undercosted. I actually think the Zoanthropes are pretty well costed these days. They only have 3 wounds. They only have a 4-up save. They do die relatively quick to small arms fire. So I think they're pretty good where they are. Maybe you could bump them up to 35 points model. That wouldn't be the worst, but no, I think Zoanthropes are pretty good. Then we have an Exocrine, 135 points for one of the best anti-infantry, elite infantry gun platforms in the game. 36-inch range, D6 plus 3 shots, blast at strength, is it 8, AP -3, damage 3. This is Terminators, Blade Guard. I'm trying to think of some other elite infantry like that. My mind is missing some of those. But that style of unit really hates to go up against one of these. That AP3 is just so good. Pretty much turns everything to its invuln save if it has it. And it's heavy, so it can stand still. And if it shoots something and that unit survives, everything else that shoots that gets reroll 1s to hit, which is just insane. Again, Tyranids don't have a lot of rerolls in 10th edition, so any aspect of getting those is well deserved, well liked by us as a Tyranid player. So putting them up there because they're so cheap and they do so much damage. Yes, they're not that durable. They will die if your opponent needs to focus fire them. A couple last cannons will take them out, but they should be fine. And then I have the Gargoyles. I really like Gargoyles. I think most lists should have 20 of them, 2 units of 10. They can do multi-purpose. You can have 1 unit move up the board, They have assault weapons, so technically you can move and advance and still do secondaries like cleanse or teleport homers or things like that. They're great for doing that. I like to keep one on the board, fly them up, advance them, do that sort of actions if I have those secondaries, claim that no man's land objective, and one unit to deep strike later, turn 3 in the game, or turn 2 if you have a secondary that needs to be done in a certain part of the board where you just aren't at. And you can drop this cheap 75 point unit. Yes, they have a larger footprint, but drop them in there and they're good to go. I love them. Not much else to say about them. Definitely the most superior of all the Gaunts. Then we have the Foot Tyrant. The Foot Tyrant is one of the best support units in the game. For whatever reason, I'm not complaining about it. Every other army has the rule that the Foot Tyrant does have, where you can use a stratagem for free when you're in range of the character. However, every other army is once per battle round, and the Swarm Lord is once per turn. Meaning, once your turn, once your opponent's turn, you get to use a free strat for a unit within range of him. That adds up to, 12 CP a game if he's alive the entire game. Sorry, 10 CP a game if he's alive that entire game. Overwatch is a great option to do. The Feel No Pain strat is a great one to do. Maybe switching a unit's imperatives is a good one. It's very powerful. Now, shooting wise, he's not good. I would probably take him with the Stranglethorn cannon. Mine is glued in with the Venom cannon. It's not good. Venom cannon's really bad. I would take the Stranglethorn cannon if I could change it. Maybe I should work on getting the bits to change mine out. I think I have them. I just need to paint them up and stuff. But I think the Stranglethorn cannon is much better just because you're more likely to do damage, where the Venom cannon, you're not doing much. And he's okay in melee too. Some decent melee potential, twin link, hitting on 2s. Good stuff. Just, it's not a ton, and he's not that durable, but you can give him 4 Feel No Pain. 5 Feel No Pain if he survives 4 Feel No Pain. But like I said, save him to turn 3, and he's going to do just fine in the late game. And finally, a unit that a lot of people didn't think were going to be up here. I didn't think they'd be up here right away, but I love them, and I swear by at least one unit in every single list. I like 2. The Raveners are awesome. They can be good damage dealers. They got twin links. They got 7 attacks apiece at strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage. They got some piddly shooting, which against some armies might kill some models. Against other armies, I don't even bother shooting it, really, it seems like. They can be good damage dealers, but really, the reoccurring deep strike with the way secondaries work is insane, because you might have a secondary where they need to be in one corner of the map. So they do it there, but then you have another unit and they might be in that corner. So then you alternate and you bring the next unit in there. And then this unit comes back and then he needs to be over here. And then this unit goes down and comes back and he needs to be over here. And they're constantly moving around the board, just doing what they need to do. Maybe they got to go clear off a home objective with just a 5-man squad sitting on it. They can do that. But yeah, Raveners, very good. I like them the most out of the 75-point units. I think I've talked about that in a video. We have a lot of units, utility units at 75 points for a squad of 3. I like these ones the most. They just do what they need to do and do it consistently. So I can't really complain with that. So that is everything. We look at the final tier ranking. What we have here, it's pretty bell curved as much as I can say. Actually, that's a pretty good bell curve. Yeah, so let me know, do you agree with this list 100%? Did I put a unit way too high in your opinion, or did I put a unit way too low in your opinion? I feel pretty good. I went back and forth with this a lot. I made the list once, and then I didn't look at it for a few days, and I came back and I looked at it again, moved a few things around, and then when I was making the final versions of these, I moved a few more things around. So I'm pretty consistent. Like I said, I've played a game, not necessarily on camera for you guys, but off camera. I've played more games than on. With every single one of these units once, except for the Harridan and the Sporocyst. And in return, the mucolids as well. I've tried everything else at least once. I kind of have a little bit of understanding how they play. Sure, I've used a Haruspex way more than I've used a Harpy or the Hierophant, but things being, oh, actually, that's a lie. I have not used the Winged Prime. I haven't even built mine because I know they're that bad, and it's just not worth my time building and painting them yet. I'm gonna wait. I might want to do something crafty with mine, even though I have 2 of them. But yeah, so that's how that stands. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, do you agree? Do you not? I'm looking at the time of this recording, and it's gonna be about 45-minute video, so well under an hour. Thankfully, that is how that one went. I'm glad. But yeah, we have a battle report. You can see the setup for it here. Battle report will be coming the following Monday, and then hopefully by then we're getting into 10th edition Tyranid stuff. So stay tuned to that. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you members for supporting. And we'll see you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios.